Here are 90 footage clips from GTA 6. That single line, posted just after midnight on September 18th of 2022 by an account with no history whatsoever, became the largest leak in the history of this medium within about a day. This video is about the person behind it, a teenager from Oxford named Arion Kurtaj, and about the reason his case walks back into a British courtroom in November, the same month Grand Theft Auto 6 finally reaches players. Underneath that first line, the same account added that more might be coming and listed what was sitting on the other end, including source code for both Grand Theft Auto 5 and 6, along with assets and a testing build. Most people carry around a version of this story that goes something like, a hacker leaked the game, Rockstar took the hit, an 18-year-old was convicted, everybody moved on. That last part never happened. Kurtaj has never been convicted of anything, not in 2022, not in 2023, and not in the 3 years since, and that one detail, which nearly every article on this case gets wrong, explains everything about what happens this November. What follows covers 3 things: how the most valuable unreleased product in entertainment walked out of a corporate network with the help of a hotel television and a $30 streaming stick, why nobody has publicly established how the intruder got inside in the first place 4 years and a 6-week trial later, and why the case, everyone assumes ended in a hospital in 2023, has not legally begun. Part 1. The most secretive company in gaming. February of 2022 gave the world exactly one sentence about the next Grand Theft Auto, when Rockstar Games confirmed that active development was well underway, and that was the entire announcement. There was no title attached to it. The number 6 had never crossed the company's lips. Nothing existed publicly, no footage, no screenshot, no character, no city, and no year, which left an audience that had spent the better part of a decade constructing an entire cottage industry out of guessing, because guessing was genuinely all anyone had. 9 years separated Rockstar from its last mainline release, and the company filled almost none of that window with information. That silence functioned as the product rather than as neglect. Rockstar reveals land-like weather events precisely because Rockstar starves everyone in between them. Understand the scale of what arrived in September of 2022 then. 50 minutes of raw footage from inside that game appeared on the open internet more than a year before the company itself would say the words Grand Theft Auto 6 out loud, which meant this was never a spoiler. This was the veil coming off entirely. The people responsible were teenagers. Part 2. Lapsus Dollar. Lapsus Dollar ranked among the most successful hacking operations on the planet at that point, though the word successful deserves care here, because sophistication was never really their thing. Exotic malware played no part in it. Their toolkit ran on social engineering, on bribing insiders for access, and on finding routes around authentication systems, which is a technical way of saying they talked their way inside. They located the human being in the process, and then they worked on the human being. The results speak for themselves. NVIDIA, Samsung, Microsoft, T-Mobile, BT, EE, and Uber all went down, along with Okta, an identity company whose entire commercial product consists of keeping people out of things. Hold on to one number from this stretch. When the group hit NVIDIA and BT, prosecutors later told a court that a $4 million ransom had been demanded, and nobody paid it. Keep that in your pocket, because a different group makes a different demand toward the end of this story and receives the same answer. Visual. Exterior of Southwark Crown Court. 2 people eventually stood before Southwark Crown Court, described by prosecutors as key players in the group. One of them cannot be named. He was 17 years old, British law protects his identity, and I have no intention of speculating about who he is, so please don't do it in the comments either. His sentence came down as an 18-month youth rehabilitation order with strict supervision attached, plus a ban on using virtual private networks. The other one was Aryan Kurtaj. Part 3, The Door. Here is the part I did not expect when I started digging, and it is genuinely strange. Nobody has ever publicly established how he got in. 4 separate accounts exist, and they do not agree with each other. Flashpoint, a threat intelligence firm, reported that social engineering against a Rockstar employee based in India opened the door, granting access to Rockstar's own Okta. InfoSecurity magazine described an employee clicking a malicious email. A third account describes a phishing attempt against a remote worker, with the intruder then moving through that person's browser data. Forbes, writing within days of the leak, put it plainly and said the exact details of the Rockstar breach are unclear. 4 years, 1 6-week trial, and that is still where the question sits. Every version agrees on where he ended up, which was inside Rockstar's internal Slack, and by his own claim, the company's Confluence wiki as well. Those are the platforms where staff talk to each other and pass files back and forth, and parked in those channels were 90 development videos. Notice that a real person sits on the other side of all 4 of those explanations. Somebody at Rockstar, working an ordinary day on the other side of the world from head office, got worked on by someone whose entire skill set consists of sounding convincing. That employee has never been named publicly and never should be, because almost anyone reading their work email at 11 in the morning would have done exactly the same thing. None of these operations depend on a flaw in the code. They depend on an ordinary Tuesday. Part 4, The Post. 90 files landed, running roughly 50 minutes in total, and the reason it devastated Rockstar is that none of it resembled marketing material. Development capture from every stage of the process spilled out instead, including animation tests, one of which shows a figure leaning out of a car window and tracking a rifle in a slow circle over and over because somebody somewhere needed to check whether the aiming looked right. Buried in those clips sat everything Rockstar had spent years refusing to confirm. 2 protagonists, one of them a woman, a location labeled Vice City Metro, a robbery sequence. Flashpoint also reported that the stolen source code covered Grand Theft Auto 5, Grand Theft Auto 6, Red Dead Redemption 2, and a Red Dead Redemption 3. I found that claim in exactly one place and nowhere else, so treat it as single-sourced rather than established. But if it holds up, an unannounced game sat in that hall and almost nobody noticed. Visual, Rockstar's official statement, September 19, 2022. Take-Two moved inside a few hours, firing takedown notices at GTA forums, at YouTube, and at the Grand Theft Auto subreddit, while threads were locked and stripped. September 19th brought something Rockstar almost never does, which was talk. The company stated that an unauthorized third party illegally accessed and downloaded confidential information from its systems, including early development footage for the next Grand Theft Auto. Sit with that for a reason you probably would not expect. Confirming the intrusion also confirmed the footage, which meant Rockstar's own damage control doubled as authentication, and every frame the leaker posted became verified by the victim. The leaker posted again after that, and this is where the story turns ODD. Waking up to 3,000 messages had apparently caught them off guard. They said the thread had gone viral beyond anything they anticipated, and they left a contact route for Rockstar or Take-Two staff because they wanted to negotiate. Read that back slowly. Somebody walked off with the crown jewels of a multi-billion-dollar company and then asked the company to call them back. Professional extortion operations do not behave that way, and that mismatch is the first genuine clue about who was sitting on the other end. Part 5. The Hinge. Kurtaj was not hiding in a bunker when the Rockstar hack happened. He was on bail, following his arrest in connection with the NVIDIA breach, living under police protection in a Travelodge hotel, and subject to bail conditions that restricted what he was permitted to do online. He did it anyway, from the hotel. According to what the court was told, The Rockstar hack ran on the television in that room, an Amazon Fire Stick that let him reach cloud computing services, a keyboard and mouse, and his mobile phone. There was no workstation, no office, and nobody else in the room with him. Prosecutors said he was caught red-handed circumventing his bail conditions when that Fire Stick turned up on the hotel room television. Precision matters here, because plenty of coverage got giddy at this point, and I would rather not. None of this means hacking is easy, and a Fire Stick is not a hacking tool. What it means is that the real work had already been finished somewhere else by talking to a person, and all that remained was access. Access does not require a workstation. Access requires a screen, an input device, and a connection, because once you are standing inside the walls, the machine you happen to be sitting at stops mattering very much. Rockstar told the court the hack cost the company $5 million, along with thousands of hours of recovery work. $5 million against a television and a streaming stick. Part 6, The Court. Visual timeline card. Dates landing one at a time, read flat and fast. July of 2023 brought the first reports that he might be unfit to stand trial. August of 2023 brought the jury's finding after 6 weeks at Southwark Crown Court. This is the point where the caper story ends, because nearly every article you will ever read about this case gets the next part wrong. Doctors assessed Courtage, found he had acute autism, and concluded he was not fit to stand trial, which meant that what unfolded in that courtroom was never a criminal trial at all. The jury was not asked whether he was guilty of anything. The jury was handed a much narrower question, which was whether he had done the acts. Intent went unassessed, criminal responsibility went undetermined, and no conviction exists. Search his name right now and count how many outlets reach for the word convicted. I did exactly that. Most of them do it, including outlets I otherwise trust, and within about 4 minutes you are going to understand why that one word carries the entire back half of this story. The court also heard that he had been violent while in custody, with dozens of reports of injury or property damage logged against him. Visual, full-screen text, white on black, no music. Then came the psychiatric assessment reported by the BBC, which is the sentence this whole case turns on. He was sitting in custody at the time for hacking, and the assessment concluded he intended to do it again immediately. December of 2023 brought an indefinite hospital order rather than a prison term, meaning a secure hospital for the rest of his life, unless doctors eventually decided he no longer posed a danger to the public, with the judge citing both his intent and his ability. He was 18 years old. Part 7, 2026. 2.5 years of nothing followed. Reporting restrictions sat over the case, and as far as the public was concerned, the story finished inside that hospital. July 14th of this year changed that, when Joe Tidy, the BBC's cyber correspondent, reported that Courtage had left the secure hospital and was, in his words, in a normal prison awaiting retrial. Getting there took work. Tidy had been chasing confirmation for weeks after images surfaced appearing to show Courtage posting from prison. He has described extracting even that much from police as extremely difficult, and a high court judge had to lift the reporting restrictions before any of it could be published. November of 2026 holds the retrial. November 19th of 2026 holds the release of Grand Theft Auto 6. Now, the thing I asked you to hold on to pays off because the calendar is not the reason those two things collide. A retrial became possible precisely because no conviction ever existed to overturn. The 2023 proceeding established conduct rather than guilt, so when doctors reassessed him as fit, a door that had never actually closed simply opened. That is my reading of it. I am not a lawyer, and Tidy himself has said he is still chasing exactly how this works while police tell him almost nothing. The specific charges remain unpublished. The possible sentence remains unpublished. As I put this together in August, that is the sum total of what anybody has. Part 8, the thing I am not going to do. I am recording this during the week that new Grand Theft Auto 6 gameplay and a map leaked online from an entity calling itself CyberLeak, which means some of you are already connecting dots. Please don't, and be careful with any channel that does. No evidence links those two things. Nobody has reported any. Kurtaj is sitting in prison awaiting trial, and insiders have suggested the newly leaked material is years old. Something else turned up while I was researching this, though, and it genuinely is connected, and almost nobody in this space covered it. Rockstar was breached again in April of this year. A group called Shiny Hunters got in, though not through Rockstar. They went through Anodot, a third-party analytics vendor holding standing access to Rockstar's cloud data warehouse, pulling authentication tokens out of the vendor's systems and walking through a door Rockstar had propped open for a supplier. April 11th brought their demand, which ended in 3 words: pay or leak. The deadline landed on April 14th. Rockstar refused to pay. Shiny Hunters published, claiming more than 78 million records covering support tickets, contracts, financial documents, and marketing plans, while Rockstar confirmed the incident and described what was accessed as limited and non-material. Look at the shape of the whole thing now. In 2022, nobody broke Rockstar's defenses because they went through a person. In 2026, nobody broke Rockstar's defenses because they went through a vendor. The most secretive company in gaming has been breached twice inside 4 years, and on the public record, neither incident was a failure of Rockstar's own walls. Both were failures of something standing right next to those walls, holding a key that Rockstar did not directly control. One clarification before anyone runs with this: I am describing a pattern of method rather than a pattern of people. Suggestions exist that these groups connect to one another. I could not verify any of it, so I am not saying it. Resolution: here is where all of it actually sits. 90 videos running roughly 50 minutes, $5 million in recovery costs, that figure coming from Rockstar's own testimony in court, with one outlet's reporting putting the combined impact across every targeted company closer to 10 million, one indefinite hospital order handed to an 18-year-old, one unnamed 17-year-old carrying a rehabilitation order and a VPN ban, one $4 million ransom nobody paid, and 4 years later a second ransom from an entirely different group that nobody paid either. One forum thread, locked and stripped, still sitting in the Wayback Machine with nearly 6,000 replies logged from the day it detonated, and one trial in November. Not a retrial of a verdict, because a verdict has never existed. The trial that never happened, finally happening during the same month the game he took gets handed to everybody else. Nearly everything here traces back to journalists who sat through a 6-week trial, and to Joe Tidy at the BBC in particular, who has stayed on this case for 4 years and had to fight a reporting restriction to publish the 2026 update at all. If this held your attention, he is the one who earned it. I will be covering the trial in November. Take care of yourselves out there, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.
Make sure you click the circle to subscribe to my YouTube gaming channel, and make sure you click the box to watch my previous uploads. Take care, and thanks again.